residency is the most important residency in all of Americas. And I feel I rate it higher than the Canadian PR as well as the US GC green card. And the reason, there's several reasons, but I think I would like to talk about the top 3 reasons why I feel it's more valuable. I think it's more important and better compared to the other 2 in the Americas. So the first, I think, biggest benefit of a Mexican residency is it's flexible, it's open. So you can either spend as much time as you want in Mexico, or if you have commitments outside and you cannot make the time, then it's flexible enough to allow you to do what you want to do. So you can spend as little time to as much time as you want. And if you're anticipating, let's say in future, you might need to be away for a while, it does provide that flexibility. So in terms of the residency requirements, it ranks highest because it provides you with complete flexibility. It doesn't really define how long, how much or how less you should be in the country. It's pretty open. So that's one of the biggest advantages with this type of residency, because a lot of entrepreneurs who are constantly traveling or who have their main activity in their home country or some other country, and if Mexico is a residency option, then they might not be able to spend all of that time in Mexico. So Mexico is flexible. So that's the first big advantage. The second big advantage is real estate is cheap compared to Canada or the US. Is reasonably cheaper, and by buying a real estate, it does provide you with residency. So you can either get residency via a bank disclosure. So if you have certain amount of funds in your bank, 43K in your bank for the last 12 months, you can qualify for a TR. And the second way of qualifying is if you do an investment of, it's approximately 300K, slightly over 300K. If you invest that much in your own property, in buying your own property and any property in Mexico, you can actually apply for the residency permit. So the other advantage is the taxation. So with Canada, you are paying very high taxes. There's definite residency requirements. If you're on a Canadian PR, you not only have to live there for most of your time to maintain the status, so you really have to have a significant amount of presence in Canada, in which then triggers your taxation. And taxation is super high. So it's even more higher than the US. So in some cases, you might end up paying close to a 50% in taxes. So half your money would be gone in paying taxes if you're, let's say, considering Canada for your residency. On the other hand, with the US, the green card, again, it has a lot of restrictions. You have to follow those restrictions. Whether you like it or you don't, you have to be a tax payer. So that's one big consideration. And secondly, to maintain the residency, you have to live more in US in order to keep your status. So that's the second consideration with the US. On the other hand, with Mexico, you can continue to, if you choose to be a tax resident, that's fine. If you choose to be a tax resident of somewhere else, that's also fine, because there's no fixed residency requirement in Mexico. So that's, I think, a second big benefit. The third one is the kind of the vibe and the culture. It has that Western feel. So for someone who is not from the West, who wants a residency in the West, and they really don't want to fall in the tax trap, sort of, if they don't want to, then that can be avoided entirely with a Mexican option. So for example, let's say you want to have a Canadian PR. You like Canada, you like the West, you want to have a Western lifestyle. But if you don't satisfy the conditions, if you don't satisfy the residency requirements, then you can lose your PR status or face a violation, right? You're violating your agreement of your status. They gave you the status to go and be a PR, not a PR, and that's an issue. And if you're not paying taxes, if you're not spending the right amount of days, you eventually lose that option. Same is the case with the US GC. It's very strict. It has restrictions. If you don't maintain, you don't follow all the required restrictions, then you lose GC as well. With Mexico, it's, as I said, it's completely open. You don't lose it. You can spend as less or as much time as you want in Mexico, which makes it a fabulous option. So it does give you that. Property prices are cheap. That's the second one. And it has the Western feel to it. So I think Mexico is an excellent option for Turkish nationals. So if you have a Turkish passport, you can initially travel, live, and explore Mexico and then decide whether you want the residency in Mexico or not. So it's great for Turkish people. It's great for someone from India. So if you want to, kind of invest in the West, and if you want the Western feel and the lifestyle, yet you don't want to put time on the ground, then I think Mexico is a great option for you. I think it's great for Chinese investors, who again have their life set up somewhere else. They want a Western feel, the Western vibe, the Western culture. They want to experience it, maybe not for the full time, maybe for partial time. They want to go there, have fun, maybe have a second residence, have your beautiful, let's say a villa close to the coastline. Mexico gives you that option. Mexico gives you a good of all. There's some sort of negative news with the safety and crime situation, etc. Those are certain areas, and those exist even in Canada, and they exist even in the US. So nothing different. Yes, there's some stigma, and there's a lot of media hype surrounding the safety situation, but that's all historic. I think off late it has become a very strict country. I think the immigration procedures are quite strict. They're enforced and followed pretty rigorously. It has exceedingly becoming a strict country. Before, I think Western tourists, let's say from the US or Canada, used to casually come to Mexico, live for 6 months, exit for a couple of days, come back and live another 6 months. But of late, they have been cracking down on that, and even American and Canadian tourists have to obtain a residency if they legally want to live in Mexico for most of the time. So it is getting a pretty strict country. So so those are the reasons why I feel the Mexican residency is more important or more valuable than the Canadian or the US residency. The Canadian and the US residency might be a good option for someone who actually wants to live full-time in the country and they have some source of income from that country. So if, let's say, someone is working on like a worker visa, then yes, your US would make sense. And if someone wants to put the time on the ground and have a long-term strategy to go and eventually get their citizenship, and they don't mind paying the 50% taxes, and they have income from the country and they want to live there full-time, there may be a migrant worker, then Canada and US would make sense. But if you're an entrepreneur and you're an investor and you want the Western lifestyle without all the hassle and the issues of maintaining the residency permit, then Mexico is a great option and a great situation to be in. And don't forget, with a Mexican TR, it's not a TR forever. You can easily then jump on to more concrete steps. You can then become a PR, permanent resident, after 4 years. And once you keep the PR for a year, you can then apply for your Mexican citizenship, which is an excellent, strong passport. You can do that after 5 years, provided you have lived for a year and a half before applying for your Mexican citizenship. So let's say you're going to hit 5 years, 1 year and a half before, you must have lived continuously, and then you can obviously apply and qualify and then obtain your Mexican passport. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you get notified when I create my next video. Until next time, you take care. Bye.